Hi guys and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be continuing with the wide body kit and focusing on creating one of the side skirts. So hopefully by the end of this episode we will have the side skirt mounted and we'll see what it's going to look like. Stay tuned. So if you've been following along, I would usually show you doing this part, but I've skipped ahead because you've probably seen it loads if you're a subscriber. If not, you can jump back to the previous videos where I'm doing the wide arches, the rear arches, and you'll see. But basically this is the mould. It's a two-part mould. You see down here, there's a seam that joins two pieces together, which has been filled with the Filatum wax. And then the mould itself has had 3 coats of mould release wax and then 1 coat of PVA release, and then I've gave it 2 coats of the black gel coat. This was done a few days ago, and what I've been told is you can just fiberglass straight onto this. We'll use the resin obviously, and that's no problem, it will still bond to it because it is dry to the touch. So that's what we're going with today. I just ran out of time the last time. So today, fiberglass in 3 layers of fiberglass, leave it for 24 hours and then we'll pull the mould apart and hopefully everything's intact. Most of this will be time lapsed, so hopefully it's a quick video, and once we've pulled the mould from the part, apart from the mould even, we'll get it fitted up to the car at the end. Guys, I've tried to prepare as much as I can for this video, so I've got my fiberglass cup, the resin sitting here, my cups, catalyst for the resin, use a metal ruler for stirring it all up, and gloves, cotton gloves. So we're just going to pour some out into the big container and the smaller one so it's easier to move it about. And one more thing I need is scales. Need the scales. Right, let's go.
Trying my best not to lose control. I want you, that's all I know. Trying my best not to lose control, 'cause I adore you, adore you. Trying my best not to lose control. I want you, that's all I know. Trying my best.
So this is what it looks like after one layer. It's a very awkward mould to get everything pressed up against the sides, but hopefully it's going to be alright. And as you've probably seen, spilled 2 cups of resin, something I've never done before, but just on the edge of the wood all over the floor. What you gonna do? So I'm gonna twice round with this. It's taken quite a lot of resin. I've saturated this first layer, hoping that helps next few layers kind of bond together. So we'll just get cracked on. Okay, so maybe you could tell from that time lapse there, but I was having a bit of a nightmare. Started off spilling resin and stuff, but even after that, I've got a funny feeling. I did follow the instructions, but the first layer of resin seemed to start not setting but curing, while the next one was going on, and then that started creating air bubbles, which I got a lot of them out. But it's different resin to use for the moulds. And whether I've done something wrong in the mixing or it's just the wrong stuff for the job, I don't know, but we are where we are just now. So I'll leave this till tomorrow and then we'll crack the mould and we'll see what we've ended up with. But I did feel as if I used a lot of resin because obviously the first layer was curing, so that wasn't letting the next layer get saturated. So then you have to put more resin in, saturate that layer, so it's probably going to be quite a heavy part. But it's it's a learning experience, so let's just fingers crossed it comes out of the mould okay and the mould's still intact, it doesn't damage that, we can always pull another part out. But yeah, we'll give it 24 hours and then we'll come back to it. So it's the next day, folks, and seems to have set up okay. I'm just going to stick the camera on the tripod and we'll see how long this takes to get out. Wish me luck. Not bad, boys, not bad. Well, I'm extremely happy with that. I can't actually see any problem with it, although I do think when we were laying it up there probably was too much resin because it was starting to flash off a little bit. But all in all, there's plenty of meat on these, so they get cut back kind of just a few mil there and then down into the edge of the car, so there's a good few inches all the way around these that will get cut off. So even at the back there it kind of comes down at that level, so there's that good portion there right along the bottom, it all gets cut off. But yeah, they seem good, so I'm going to crack on with the next one, and once I've done that I'll just straight on to trimming them up and trying to fit them in the car. Okay, so I've carved out a little bit of time, a couple hours or so, and I am going to start cutting the side skirt to try and get it to mount up well. I'm going to have to take the rear arch back off, and I'll just show you a second. So I've made a little space to work in, which is always nice. So you see here I've kind of made a rough line where I think it needs cut. I've left a little bit extra on it, but I'm going to try and cut all that off with either the grinder or just the multi-tool. And I'll probably take the door off as well, just to make it a bit easier opening, rather than opening and shutting the door every time. I'll just take the door off, and I'll take the back arch off because that goes on after the side skirt. So basically the side skirt will sit down on top of this piece here, I think. Is that piece there? That piece there, sorry. It sits down on top of this. And so again, to make it easier, I'll just take, it's only on with 3 bits of tape, so I'll lift that off and just start getting to cutting, and hopefully I don't mess it up. Hopefully I cut off the right amount and not too much. I kind of roughly know where the front needs, where the back needs cut, sorry. The front's slightly different. I think I need to follow this line here that I've got and bring it along. And I just want to keep as much of this piece as possible just now. That'll be the inner arch. Eventually I'll put a plate in front of this, like a stone guard. And so I don't want to cut too much off it. I'll just kind of try it. I'll cut a little bit off, fit it. If it doesn't work, just keep cutting back and back and back until we get it to work. And then when we know the right sizes, I can simply bring the other one over, duplicate it, cut it and fit it to our size. That should be easy enough. So I'll just get cracking. I kind of underestimated how dusty that would be. I should have had a mask on, but I did set up the fan at the back door there to draw some air out. And for a first cut, I think we're not too bad. I'll show a couple of areas we're going to need to address. So this corner in here, obviously when you're laying the fiberglass, you don't really know how thick you are putting it in the corner, so it's pretty thick. I need to shave it down to about 3mm. Just now it's maybe about 7. So just this corner, just tied up this corner to let it just kind of fit round about that area there. It's a bit of a similar situation here. You can see maybe just about under there. It's kind of square cut with the grinder. I need to feather it back the way, just so it slopes back. That way it'll fit onto this slope here. So those two areas are easy enough to sort out. And I'm imagining this line here just needs tidied up a little bit. It's quite even. Can maybe just take the sander to that to even that up. I seem to be hitting a little issue this bit here, which is the original shape of the original side skirt, but at the moment I'm fibbling this bracket. Now I don't think the bracket's bent out of shape or anything, so I can either take a little piece, just a little bit, change the shape of that a bit to miss it, or maybe once we've got everything fitting neater it'll pass it. I'm not quite sure. So in here you can see part of the, well, it's quite dark in there, but there is a piece of metal that sticks out. There's the finger there, and it goes in, comes out, and then passes it. So at the moment this little corner here where I'd left the extra on, we're going to need to cut a bit off that just so it doesn't hit that piece. And apart from that, once we've got it fitting, we'll tidy up the bottom edge it runs along. My plan was to have it overhanging the original bolt holes for the side skirt, and then it hangs lower than the original side skirt, so I'll drill where the mounting holes go and I'll fit kind of spacers in. It's about 3/4 of an inch, basically just the same thickness as this bottom lip here, so I can fit spacers in and bolt them straight into the original bolt holes. So I'll just keep going with that, get the little sanders out, etc., and shouldn't take too long to get this fitting up. Alright, we've got it sitting in place with some dodgy plastic cups that are about to crumple, but it's sitting there, we can see it. So in the original factory size skirt there is plastic poppers that go in from there and push into these little clips in the bodywork. We're going to change them out probably for some bolts, but I don't want to be drilling anything until I know everything's going to line up. So we'll have a selection of fixings along there. We'll have the standard fixings going along the bottom with the spaces that we talked about. We'll also have, there'll be some fixings here because the rear arch is going to cover this seam line here and go down onto here. So what we'll do is we'll bolt the side skirt on, and then in this area where the rear arch sits top of it, we'll put some fixings that we can get from right from underneath that can come right through and sandwich these two parts together. Maybe 3 or 4 fixings along there to just compress all that together. Obviously that can be done after bodywork. We can just have it accessible, have some caps under here we can take off to access the bolts, and so it can be done in stages, so anything we can do can be undone. But yeah, it's fitting pretty well up here and up the back there where I was looking. That would probably fit if you were just using it as a side skirt. That would push in and bolt in just fine there, which is quite good. I think I'm gonna, this little angle here, I'm going to change it slightly, just so that I can push it in here. You can see it there, it wants to go in, but it's just starting to hit at that point there, so I can sand that a little bit, let that go in, but I'm pretty happy where it is. Obviously it's sitting where the standard side skirt would sit, so it's probably about 100mm off the ground, and obviously we've still to lower the car, cut the arch and everything. You'll see I'm going to put the back arch on just now, just see how it all meets up, and you'll be able to see that it's still, the car's still to be dropped, probably 70mm, and I'm hoping there's enough wear in the suspension that I've got to do that. There should be, because you can drop a standard 350Z that amount, so it should be okay. So yeah, I'll set it back up and we'll get this rear arch sat on, see what it looks like. There we go, folks. Obviously, as I said, it's just sitting together, but starting to get an idea of how it's going to actually look. Bring you down here, so this gap along here is still to be tightened up. I think the side skirt's sitting at an angle that way, so once we bring it down, that'll tighten this gap up, which is not too bad. Round here, probably once, as I said, I was going to sand this a little bit, so once I take everything off, sand that, side skirt will move that way, which will let that move in with it, and it will tighten up this gap here. So a little, obviously when you say you buy a body kit, oh, it needs work to make it fit, this is exactly the same. It's all, obviously from the mould, the outside shape's fine, but it's the inner side when you're building it up with the fiberglass, you're just maybe making some areas too thick, and that's what needs ground back. There is areas like this where I've maybe ground it back too much at the back, that I'm going to I'll put a bit of filler at the back and reshape it, but at the meantime I've made it too thin, and when you're handling it, it's just broken wee places. So that's a learning curve for me. Obviously I'm just being a bit too rough with it until I get it to where I want it to be. So the next area is to get the front arch done. I think that'll really put it all together. If I can get the front arch done, and then I can get the door on, and you can get a full side view of the car, and it'll look pretty good. But for this episode, side skirts on, I'll not bore you with the other side, I'll just get on with that in my own time. But yeah, thanks very much guys for tuning in, and hit the subscribe button, and that way you'll get notifications for the next time. Cheers.